Welcome back to English from A to Z. Today we are attempting something, well, truly ambitious, I think. We're diving deep into the single most common sound and reduction in American English.
Hmm.
It's a sound so fundamental, it probably makes up, what, maybe 15% of all spoken syllables?
At least, yeah. Easily.
And yet it's arguably the most misunderstood element of pronunciation. We are, of course, talking about the schwa.
The schwa, it's that relaxed, neutral sound that just sits right at the thermodynamic center, you could almost say, of the entire accent.
Thermodynamic center, I like that.
Yeah, and for any serious learner, or frankly, anyone just trying to sound authentically native-like, maybe more well-informed, mastering the schwa is, well, it's the ultimate shortcut.
The shortcut, how so?
Because it's not just learning one sound, it's the key to unlocking the entire physical rhythm of the language. It really is.
Okay, so our source material for this deep dive is pretty extraordinary. It's a masterclass compilation dedicated entirely to the schwa, its hidden mechanics, and crucially, the specific default mouth settings needed to make it happen effortlessly. This isn't just about copying sounds, it's about physical linguistics, anatomical adjustments.
Exactly. That's our mission here. We want to understand why this neutral sound is so central. We're not just looking at one vowel. We're examining the whole system, the entire posture of American English.
The posture.
Yeah. And if you can't hit the schwa naturally, it basically means your entire vocal tract is fighting against the default settings of the accent you're trying to learn.
So the schwa needs to be the center of gravity.
It has to be the center of gravity for, well, pretty much every other sound you make.
Okay, and here's where we hit maybe the first big aha moment for a lot of listeners.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been told, maybe in language classes or online, just relax your tongue to make the schwa sound,
Oh, that old advice. Yeah.
and it hasn't worked for you,
Yeah.
well, there's a reason.
Yeah.
That advice is fundamentally incomplete.
It really is. Relaxation is absolutely mandatory, yes, but your native language's default posture is already fighting you. You're trying to relax a muscle, the tongue that's structurally locked, in a non-American setup.
So it's not just the tongue.
No, it requires a full vocal tract adjustment. We're talking jaw tension, how open your throat is, the soft palate height, and, yes, critically, the tongue's resting position.
Right.
Until you establish those foundational settings, you'll always be forcing the schwa. It'll sound strained, maybe too long or too far forward in the mouth.
Okay, so let's lay the groundwork then. Let's tackle that fundamental confusion that even the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA, creates.
Ah, yes, the symbols.
Exactly. We have
Yeah.
two different symbols used in English dictionaries.
Right.
There's the upside-down E, the classic schwa,
Right.
and then there's the upside-down V, sometimes called the wedge or caret.
Mm-hmm.
They look different. So why do Native American English speakers seem to hear them or perceive them as basically the same sound?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And how does this all tie into how fast we speak and how clear our speech is?
It's all connected. The perception, the symbols, the speed, it all comes back to that central posture and the role of stress.
Okay, let's kick off this section then, trying to pin down the schwa's identity, starting with those two symbols, the upside-down E, that's the schwa in an unstressed syllable, right?
Right.
Very quick, very quiet.
Exactly. That's your classic weak form. And the upside-down V, well, that's used in stressed syllables.
Now, technically, in phonetics globally, these might be slightly different points in the vowel space.
They might be, yes, technically. But in the practical reality of American English, they represent the same essential sound quality. They come from the same physical center of gravity in the mouth.
So the difference isn't the place.
No, the difference we perceive and use is purely down to one variable: stress.
Stress meaning the duration and the loudness, the amplitude.
Precisely. If a syllable gets the symbol in a dictionary, it just means that syllable is stressed. So it's going to be significantly louder and noticeably longer.
Like in the word other.
Perfect example. The first syllable, has that sound, and we emphasize it. Other, it gets the length and volume.
Okay, and compare that to, say, sofa.
Right. Sofa, first syllable, S-O, is stressed. But the second syllable, fa, uses the unstressed schwa, the schwa. So you get a schwa, quick, quiet, reduced.
So for someone learning, the task isn't really about learning two completely separate sounds.
Not in terms of where to put your tongue, no. The key is training your ear to recognize how dramatically the duration and the volume of that central vowel sound change depending on whether the syllable is stressed or unstressed.
But the place it comes from, that stays the same.
The place of articulation, that center of gravity, remains remarkably consistent. That's the core insight.
Okay, so if we strip away the stress, forget about long, short, loud, quiet for a second. Physically, where is the schwa sound actually made?
It is the absolute midpoint. Think geometry. The schwa sits right in the geometric center of your mouth, your oral cavity.
Center front to back, center top to bottom.
Exactly. On a vowel chart, it's in the middle from front to back. That means you're not using your lips much. You're not pushing the very front of your tongue forward. It uses the middle section of the tongue body.
And top to bottom.
Also the middle section. Crucially, it's not high, it's not low, it's right there in the center, height-wise, too.
So we're avoiding extremes.
Mm.
It's not a wide open mouth like the ah in father.
Definitely not.
But it's also not a tight, closed mouth like the e in meat or the oo in boot.
Absolutely not. The jaw should only be open partway. Just a little bit.
Is there a good reference point?
Yeah, a decent starting point is to think about the relaxed, sort of tension-free position you might take for a neutral A sound, like in bed. But then from there, you let the whole mechanism just kind of collapse into relaxation, total ease.
Okay. Now, what are the common mistakes here? You mentioned learners whose first language is maybe more front vowel dominant,
Yeah.
like Spanish or Italian.
Right, or some East Asian languages, too. A major pitfall is opening the mouth too much. Way too wide.
We're doing something weird with the tongue.
Yes, pushing the front of the tongue down.
And if you push the front of the tongue down, what happens to the sound?
It inevitably slides the sound forward. It makes it brighter, maybe too clear, and it often shifts towards that A sound, like the A in Spanish padre.
Ah, so that's why it might not sound relaxed or muffled enough.
Exactly. That's why so many learners struggle to get that truly relaxed, maybe even slightly muddy quality of the schwa. They're trying to make it in the front of the mouth where their native vowels live.
But it needs to stay back.
It needs to stay firmly planted in the middle, that true neutral zone. Not front, not back, just center.
Okay, if the sound is in the middle and it's supposed to be neutral, how do we know when to use it? Because as you hinted, spelling is just chaos here.
Utter chaos, yeah. The schwa is basically phonetic anarchy when it comes to spelling in English. Any vowel letter, A, E, I, O, U, or even combinations of letters can end up being pronounced as a schwa.
So rule number 1, ignore the spelling.
You absolutely have to abandon all reliance on visual spelling patterns for this. It just won't work. That's why ear training is so critical. You have to listen for that reduction, for that quick, neutral sound, not look for a specific letter.
We mentioned U is pretty common for the stressed version, the U, in words like cut, luck, run, fun. That seems somewhat intuitive.
It does, yeah. U often gets that sound.
But OA is also really common, which feels wrong somehow.
It feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? But think about words like done, or won, or month, or love, or come.
Right, if you pronounce the O in love like a Spanish O.
It's completely unrecognizable, isn't it, that O in love is the stressed schwa. But maybe the most classic illustrative example of the schwa acting as a reduction placeholder is that tiny, super common preposition, OF.
Ah, the word O, spelled OF. Huge potential for getting it wrong.
Massive potential. Because in natural flowing speech, there's basically no O sound there at all. The letter O reduces instantly, automatically, to the schwa.
NEF.
And the letter F in of is almost always voiced in that position, so it becomes a V sound.
So of is actually V, schwa, V.
Exactly. If you try to clearly say off with an unvoiced F sound, you create this speed bump in the rhythm of the sentence. It just doesn't belong in fluent English.
So the schwa lets the language glide over words like of.
Precisely. It enables the language to move efficiently, smoothly over these little functional words without getting bogged down.
Okay, so the big takeaway from this identity section. The sound is short, quiet, maybe unclear if it's unstressed. It's longer, louder if it's stressed. But crucially, it's always coming from that center spot in the mouth.
That's the core idea, yes.
But we still haven't really gotten into the mechanics of how you get your mouth to actually agree to stay in that central position. How do you set that up?
Right. And that moves us perfectly into the next critical piece. Section 2, establishing the core American English mouth posture. The default settings, and this right here is the crucial leap. We're moving from just understanding the sound conceptually to actually controlling the physical architecture that produces it.
The architecture of the mouth.
Yeah. American English requires very specific underlying, let's call them default settings for the entire vocal tract.
Like BIOS settings on a computer, running in the background.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. They're running constantly, setting the stage, the environment for every program, or in our case, every sound, to function properly and efficiently.
So if my native language has set my BIOS to, say, high tongue front position,
then you are structurally fighting the American accent before you even open your mouth to speak. It's an incompatibility at the hardware level, almost.
you have to reprogram the default.
You absolutely have to reprogram that default settings. Let's start with the parts we feel we can control, like the jaw.
Okay, the jaw.
It needs to be open enough, but subtly. We're not talking about a wide open jaw like you're yawning, just enough separation between your upper and lower teeth so the tongue body can hang freely without being squished.
But just opening the jaw isn't the whole story, right?
No, definitely not. If you only focus on opening the jaw, you often miss the really crucial elements of space that need to happen further back, deep inside the vocal tract.
Okay, so behind the jaw, what's the biggest factor creating space back there?
That would probably be the soft palate. You know, the velum, that muscular flap at the back of the roof of your mouth leading towards your throat.
Right, it controls nasal sounds.
It does, yes. For non-nasal sounds, the velum lifts up to seal off the nasal cavity so air goes out your mouth. But what we're concerned with here is its default height and tension when you're just speaking American English generally.
And what is that default?
Well, the source material we looked at highlights something interesting. It suggests that American English involves a generally higher default velum position.
Higher. Why?
It seems to be facilitated, maybe somewhat surprisingly, by a tendency in American English to breathe more deeply, more constantly during speech. There's more airflow involved.
More air helps lift the palate.
It seems so. That increased airflow, combined with a kind of generalized vocal tract tension, not a bad tension, but an engaged tension, helps lift and hold the soft palate higher by default.
And why is that high palate important?
Because it creates more vertical space right there in the back, in the pharynx. And that high, maybe slightly tense soft palate position is foundational. It provides the necessary room for the tongue to achieve that low and back position we need for the schwa.
So if the velum is lazy or low,
the space shrinks and your tongue has nowhere to go but up. It's forced to rise, basically.
that's fascinating. How can someone listening actually check this? Feel if their soft palate is high enough. It feels very internal.
It is very internal. It requires developing that internal sensation. Try this. Try swallowing, but do it really slowly and stop the motion like midway through, right before you actually commit to the full swallow.
Okay.
Can you feel that feeling of upward tension, that sealing action way in the back and up high in your throat?
Yeah, I think so. A kind of lift.
That's the feeling of a lifted palate. Now, while speaking, you don't need that much tension, but you need to maintain a generalized, sort of relaxed approximation of that upward lift. If you feel a constant, easy upward stretch way in the back of the roof of your mouth, you're probably in the right zone for the default setting.
Okay. So jaw is set, soft palate is lifted.
Yeah.
That brings us to the throat itself, which seems like it must be connected to the palate and the tongue.
Oh, absolutely. It's the next key structural piece in the puzzle. The throat needs to be generally open and relaxed, especially at the top part.
What's a danger zone here? What goes wrong?
The big danger is pinching, squeezing. Many learners, especially when they're trying hard to articulate sounds from a foreign default posture, they subconsciously tense up or pinch the sides of their throat inwards, sort of near where the tonsils are.
And if you pinch the throat like that, what does that do to the tongue?
Well, that pinching action, especially at the top of the throat, it restricts everything. It prevents the free movement and the necessary relaxation of the whole mechanism. And subtly, but very firmly, it pushes the tongue forward and upward.
So it directly sabotages that low back schwa position we need.
Exactly. It automatically destroys it. So if your tongue always feels like it's fighting to stay down, like it wants to spring up, check your throat tension first. That might be the root cause.
So the goal for the throat is relaxation both sideways and downwards.
Yeah, think relaxation laterally opening it out wide and vertically allowing the whole voice box, the larynx, to feel like it's sinking or falling downward comfortably.
How do we check that lateral relaxation? What should it feel like?
You should feel space, not pressure, on the sides of your neck and throat as you speak. If you feel like your voice is being squeezed up through a narrow tube, you definitely have tension.
And when it's open?
When you achieve that lateral openness, the sound itself often feels subjectively wider or fuller. It resonates more. And this relaxation is it's absolutely essential. If you can't get the throat to relax laterally and vertically, the tongue remains trapped, high and forward.
So they all work together. Jaw, velum, throat.
They're completely interdependent. They work together to create the right acoustic environment, the right space for the schwa to just exist effortlessly, right in the center.
Okay, now we arrive at the absolute core of the core, right? The tongue itself, the mechanics. If the schwa is the center of gravity,
then the tongue's default position is what defines that center. This is probably the most crucial, most actionable takeaway from this whole deep dive.
and the research confirms this.
Yes, research and just, native speaker intuition confirms that American English is characterized by being one of the lowest and farthest back languages in terms of tongue posture among global accents.
Hold him back.
The entire tongue body is held low. It should feel like it's perpetually sort of sinking down into the floor of your mouth, into the jaw.
It's heavy.
Exactly, like it's heavy and just hanging there, supported only very lightly, like a hammock hanging off a hinge point.
That image sinking into the jaw,
Yeah.
that must create a lot of space above the tongue, right?
Precisely. That's the whole point. Maximum space above the tongue. And that space is absolutely vital for producing the distinct quality of American vowels, especially the back vowels.
So the goal is low and slightly pulled back.
Low and slightly pulled back. Yes, we need the back of the tongue low and back. But a word of caution here.
Okay.
You need to avoid pulling it back so far that you pense it up or that you actually start blocking the airflow in your throat. That creates a choked sound.
So relaxed, low and back.
Relaxed and neutral, low and back. Avoiding any tension that pushes it forward, but also avoiding tension that pulls it way back into a block. And the middle of the tongue, when it's settled into this low back space, that position is the schwa position. That's your stable center of gravity.
Okay, so let me see if I get this. If I start at that schwa position, that low back center, and I want to say a different vowel, like the long A intake, The front of my tongue comes up a bit for the A sound.
Right.
But the main part, the middle and back of the tongue, it stays anchored low. It preserves that schwa space underneath.
That is exactly the sensation you should have. All the other vowel sounds, with the notable, very complex exception of the R sound, they move around the stable low and back center point.
So if my tongue starts high and tense,
Then every single sound you try to make afterwards is going to be distorted because you have no stable, relaxed base camp to return to between sounds.
makes sense. Okay, we've got the concept. Low and back, sinking hammock. Now, let's talk about the detail that often seems to separate people who master this from those who keep struggling. You called it the hinge.
Ah, yes, the hinge. This is critical. The hinge is what stops the tongue from just being a floppy, uncontrolled mass down there. We need the main body to be low, yes, but the sides, specifically the middle sides of the tongue, must slightly raise.
Slightly raise.
Not steeply, just enough to create some necessary lateral stability. And this is where we find that incredibly specific contact point that, according to the source material, really defines the American accent's physical anchor.
Okay, I'm ready. What is it?
The upper corner of the middle side of your tongue should make light contact with the inner surface of your fifth tooth back from the center, on both the left side and the right side.
The fifth tooth. Okay, that is incredibly specific. I can just imagine listeners now trying to count their teeth with their tongue.
Yeah.
How do you even find that reliably?
Yeah, it sounds daunting, but let's make it actionable. Start with your tongue tip right behind your front teeth, your big front incisors.
Okay.
Now, trace your tongue tip backwards along the inside of your upper teeth. You go past the sharp, pointy canine tooth, that's tooth number 3.
Right.
Then you'll feel 2 smaller teeth, the premolars. They might have little bumps on them. Those are teeth 4 and 5. Keep going back until you hit the first really big, broad, flat surface tooth. That's your first molar.
Got it.
The tooth just before that big molar, the second premolar, that's your 5th tooth. You should feel a very subtle, maybe gentle ridge on the inner surface of that tooth where the side of your tongue can rest.
Okay, I think I can feel that.
Yeah.
Now, why? Why does it matter so much that it's the fifth tooth? Why not the fourth or the sixth? What's special about that spot?
It seems that the location of the 5th tooth is just perfectly positioned. It stabilizes the sides, the lateral edges of the tongue, right at the point that encourages or even forces the middle body of the tongue to sink down as low as possible between those contact points.
Ah, so the sides anchor and the middle drops.
Exactly. The source material is really emphatic about this. It insists this hinge contact is pretty much non-negotiable for getting the right acoustic output, the right sound. If you don't have that light, steady contact there for most American English sounds, they just won't sound authentic. The whole low back mechanism sort of collapses without it.
Wait a second. I need to push back on this a little, or at least ask for clarification.
Please do.
Because many pronunciation teachers, maybe more traditional ones, advise anchoring the tip of the tongue lightly behind the bottom front teeth.
Ah, yes. The tip-down position.
Is that method actually counterproductive if we're trying to establish this specific low back fifth tooth hinge further back?
That is an excellent question, and it gets right to the heart of the confusion many learners face. Here's the nuance. If you anchor the tip behind the bottom teeth, and the rest of your tongue body rises up to meet that anchor point, then yes, absolutely, that method is counterproductive. It completely defeats the crucial low and back posture we're aiming for.
So it depends on what the rest of the tongue is doing.
It's all about what the body of the tongue is doing, the back and middle.
So ideally, by default, what should the front of the tongue, the tip, be doing?
By default, for this low back American posture, the front of the tongue also needs to be low and back. It should stay below the gum line of the top teeth, certainly.
Like French or Spanish, maybe.
Exactly. Unlike languages like French or Spanish, where the tongue tip is often very active, very forward, frequently touching the teeth, For American English, the default is generally pulled back slightly, creating a noticeable space between the very tip of the tongue and the back of your front teeth.
So it should just be resting, passive.
Resting there, completely passive, low and back. Now, back to your challenge about anchoring the tip down. There's a kind of functional hack here. Some native speakers do seem to lightly anchor the tip just behind the bottom teeth line. However, if they do this while still maintaining the overall low back body position, meaning the middle is sinking and that fifth tooth hinge is still active, then that slight forward anchor might be acceptable. It can provide a bit of extra stability.
But for a learner,
But for the learner who is trying to establish this new accent, the simplest, safest default is probably to just let the entire tongue hang low and back. Don't consciously touch the teeth with the tip at all. Focus everything on getting the body low and finding that fifth tooth contact first. Master that core posture.
okay, that makes sense. Focus on the core first. Now, since getting this maximum relaxation and lowness is the goal, especially for the schwa, let's detail those 4 tips you mentioned for actually achieving it. Because just telling someone relax more or push your tongue down can backfire.
It absolutely can. Forcing relaxation creates tension. Okay, tip 1. Don't steeply raise the middle sides. Yes, you need that light contact at the fifth tooth, but you shouldn't achieve it by actively muscling the sides of your tongue upwards.
So how should it feel?
You want the middle body of the tongue to sink lower than the sides do, primarily through relaxation, not through force. Think of the sides as maybe retaining walls, and the middle is the valley or the lake that settles deep down into the jaw between them.
Relax the middle down. Don't push the sides up.
Precisely. Which leads to tip 2. Don't tense the middle sides. That contact with the fifth tooth has to be feather-light, soft. If you find yourself jamming your tongue hard into or between your teeth, you're creating tension.
And that tension will raise the tongue.
It will inevitably raise the whole mechanism. You need to allow the tongue to relax inward and downward. Let the middle body just settle down into the jaw. That fifth tooth contact should feel almost incidental, like it's just resting there because of the downward pull of gravity on the relaxed tongue.
Okay, light contact. Which brings us to the overall tension problem in tip 3.
Right. Tip 3, remove tension from the entire tongue. We keep saying tension naturally raises the tongue. It makes hitting those foreign, maybe higher or more forward centers of gravity feel much easier, more familiar.
So if my tongue feels heavy and relaxed, but my schwa still sounds wrong,
It probably means you haven't reached the required level of deep relaxation needed for the American accent default. You likely need to achieve a state of relaxedness that feels maybe even abnormally limp compared to what feels normal in your native language.
how do you practice that?
A good reference point is the dead tongue sound. Just exhale air with your mouth slightly open and your tongue completely, utterly limp and passive. Hear that sound. Feel that lack of tension. That's your baseline. Then you minimally tense it, just barely enough to form that low back posture with the light fifth tooth contact. Maximize relaxation always.
Okay. And the final tip. For people who just feel stuck, their tongue keeps wanting to be high.
Tip 4, get the tongue even lower by addressing the throat. If your tongue consistently gets stuck high despite your best efforts to relax it, the tension is very often originating further back in the throat, like we discussed in section 2.
The pinching.
Exactly. You have to actively work on removing that tension at the top of the throat. Focus on lateral relaxation, opening it wide, and vertical relaxation, letting the voice box feel like it's falling downward. Visualize it. When the throat truly opens up and relaxes, the tongue is finally freed. It can achieve that deep, low back position that's essential for the schwa to be the true center of gravity.
Wow. It really is remarkable. A sound that's defined by being neutral and relaxed, actually requires such incredibly detailed, deliberate physical control over the entire setup.
It really does. It just proves that the natural part of natural speech comes from having the right preset defaults programmed in. The physical foundation has to be right.
Okay, so we've nailed down the posture, conceptually at least. Low back sinking tongue. That fifth tooth hinge is active. Now let's circle back to that question we started with. The schwa as a range.
Right, the range idea.
We've got the upside down E for unstressed syllables and the upside down V for stressed ones.
Yeah.
If they are technically different vowel targets, why do we treat them functionally as the same sound in English?
This really comes down to how we define the quality of a sound in connected speech. In English, vowel quality isn't just about where the sound originates front, back, high, low. It's also very much about how clearly or unclearly it's pronounced.
And how fast?
And how quickly or slowly, exactly. How much effort goes into it in the flow of conversation. The SE in there are basically just two different points, two different qualities along the same spectrum of clarity for that central vowel sound.
Okay, let's use that SE sound analogy we talked about before recording. That might help clarify the spectrum idea.
Good idea. Think of any consonant sound, let's say the S sound. You can produce a really clear, fully enunciated S, make it long, use lots of force, get a good sharp whistle in there. That's the high clarity, fully articulated end of the spectrum for S.
Okay.
Now, you start speaking faster, maybe get a little lazy with the precision of your tongue position for the S. The sound degrades slightly, right? It gets shorter, maybe less sharp.
Yeah, it gets sloppier.
Right. And if you get extremely lazy or speak extremely fast, the sound might just disappear entirely. Like how we often drop the T sound in words like internet becoming internet.
Okay, so there's a range from fully clear to completely gone.
Exactly. The schwa applies this exact same concept, this clarity spectrum, but to that central vowel sound.
So the upside down V, the
Yeah.
sound that represents the high clarity end of the schwa's range.
Precisely. When you hear the sound, like in the first syllable of other or in the word cut, that sound is being fully enunciated. Your jaw is probably a bit more open. The sound feels lower down. It has good length, good volume because it's stressed. That's the clear end.
But then,
But then when the speaker increases speed or just uses less effort, which happens constantly, especially with unstressed function, words that same underlying sound naturally moves towards the faster, more neutral, less distinct end of the spectrum, which is the true schwa, the jaw.
it keeps it clear.
Usually, yeah, because it's stressed.
But the preposition of, which is almost never stressed, automatically becomes the weak tay.
Automatically, it defaults to the quick, efficient end of the range.
And we can deliberately reverse this process too, right? If I take a word that normally has a true schwa, like the unstressed word, but in a sentence, and I decide to stress it for emphasis, like I didn't say and, I said B-U-T.
Right. What happens physically when you do that? When you stress but?
Well, I naturally open my jaw more. I give it more force.
Exactly. And that simple act of opening your jaw more instantly shifts the perceived quality of that central vowel sound. It moves from the quick, neutral, towards the clearer, more open, longer.
Ah. And here's the crucial part, I think.
Yes.
The core position of the tongue. That low back middle center of gravity with the fifth tooth hinge that we spent all that time detailing. That stays constant, doesn't it?
That is the powerful secret, yes. It's held constant throughout this transition from trend and back again.
So the only things really changing the quality are the degree of jaw opening and the amount of stress or airflow. It's not like I have to learn a completely different tongue position for...
That is the absolute key synthesis. You maintain that core untongue position we established. If you open your jaw more and apply stress, more air, more length, you get the sound quality we label. If you keep the jaw more closed, less opening, and relax the mechanism for speed, you get the quality we label too.
Wow.
And because the core anatomical starting point, that center of gravity, is shared between them, Native American English speakers perceive these two sounds as just variants or different flavors of the same foundational vowel. Even though, yes, technically they occupy slightly different acoustic spaces within the vocal tract because of the jaw opening.
And it's this flexibility.
This flexibility is precisely what allows the schwa sound in both its stressed and unstressed forms to act as the linguistic glue. It's essential for linking words together and for all the reductions we use in fast speech.
Right. Reductions and linking. Those are the two main culprits, the two main reasons why fast, natural English speech can be so incredibly challenging for learners to understand.
They change the sounds we expect to hear. Exactly, but they aren't just sloppy habits or mistakes. They are essential, fundamental mechanisms for creating the characteristic stress-timed rhythm of the English language.
And the schwa.
And the schwa is by far the single most common sound used in these reductions. It's the go-to replacement sound.
Okay, let's start with some really classic examples. The ones everyone knows, but maybe doesn't analyze. The contractions.
Good place to start. Think of the famous ones, wanna and gonna.
Right. Wanna is want to.
Exactly. It's a reduction of want to, what happens phonetically. The T sound at the end of want usually disappears completely, and the vowel sound in the word to, which is normally like you or
Not
me,
deuces.
it reduces right down to the schwa, so want to becomes wanna. The schwa replaces the full vowel sound in to.
And gonna. Going to.
Same principle. Going to becomes gonna. The word going morphs into gun, that often changes to n. And again, the word to reduces its vowel to a schwa, so you get gonna. In both wanna and gonna, the schwa is the replacement vowel that allows for greater speed and smoother connection.
And this same reduction principle extends down to the tiniest, most frequent functional words, doesn't it? Like articles.
Oh, constantly. Absolutely. The indefinite article a. When does a ever get pronounced as a full a sound in a sentence? Almost never, unless you're emphasizing it.
Right. It's always ha.
It almost always reduces to a schwa. Think. That's a good idea. You don't say, that's AY, good idea. You say, that's good idea.
And the definite article, the.
The yeah also reduces to the schwa, a, the vast majority of the time. Now, there's that old prescriptive grammar rule some people learned.
The one about saying the before a vowel sound. Like the apple.
Exactly that one. Well, in modern contemporary American English, that rule is pretty much disappearing, or at least it's highly optional.
So it's okay to use the schwa version, AA, even before a vowel.
It's perfectly acceptable and frankly extremely common. You'll hear thra, apple, flath, easy way all the time from native speakers. The rhythm and flow of the sentence often take precedence over that old phonetic distinction.
Okay. What about other common function words? Pronouns, auxiliary verbs.
Oh yeah, huge targets for reduction. The pronoun you is a classic, especially in questions. The sequence do you or did you reduces very rapidly.
How does do you retain?
Do you very often becomes dia j. The u vowel in you almost completely disappears, becomes a very quick schwa.
And did you?
Did you often becomes djed with the y sound palatalizing the d. Again, the vowel in you is reduced right down. Think about asking someone, where are you going?
How would that sound reduced?
It very often comes out sounding more like, where ya going? The R reduces, the U reduces.
And auxiliary verbs like are or is.
Yes, they reduce constantly. Take are. In a sentence like, we're going, the R often reduces rapidly to just an R sound, maybe preceded by a slight schwa quality. We're going, magaja. Is often reduces and blends right into the previous word, usually forming the contractions. Like, it is raining becomes it's raining. Phonetically, the to sound in is often gets centralized towards schwa territory before it gets absorbed by the S sound.
And those little prepositions and conjunctions must be constant targets too.
Oh, absolutely. The conjunction and when do you ever hear the full word and clearly pronounced between two connected items?
Almost never. It's just N.
Exactly. It's almost always reduced to just the syllabic N sound, like salt and pepper. The vowel disappears entirely, but the sound connecting the words often has the ghost of a schwa quality around that N.
What about for?
The preposition for very commonly reduces to for, or sometimes even just for fray with a syllabic R, especially before you. This is for you becomes this is for you. Again, the whole vowel is replaced by a schwa-like reduction.
And we can't forget the super common word because.
Oh, because.
Yeah.
Prime example. Does anyone actually say the full word because in casual speech?
Not usually. It's just 'cause.
Exactly. It almost always reduces to cuz. The initial B syllable disappears completely, and the vowel in the cause part is often reduced rapidly to a schwa or something very close to it right before the final Z sound.
Okay, and for our more advanced listeners,
Yeah.
let's quickly revisit that past tense modal reduction. You mentioned would have, could have.
Right. This is a real hallmark of fluent, natural, fast speech. When you have a modal verb followed by have to indicate past tense like would have done, could have gone, should have seen the word, have almost always reduces dramatically.
How does it reduce?
It reduces to a schwa followed by a V sound. So I would have done it becomes I would done it, would have done, could have becomes, could have can. Should have become, should have see.
And mastering that V reduction makes a big difference.
Instantly makes your speech sound faster, smoother, and much more natural. And importantly, this happens regardless of formality. It's just how the rhythm works. So the key distinction we need to keep stressing is that reduction, especially using the schwa, is about rhythm and efficiency. It's not necessarily about being informal or sloppy.
Exactly. If you choose to emphasize a normally reduced word, like stressing of in, are you thinking of me or about me, then yes, you'll use the full, clear pronunciation, maybe even closer to the stressed quality.
What otherwise?
But otherwise, the default setting in connected speech is to use the quickest, most efficient, least effortful sound available for these function words. And 9 times out of 10, that sound is the schwa.
And it's that flexibility we talked about, the ability to shift easily between the clear when stressed and the quick creme when unstressed, all while keeping the same basic tongue posture.
That's exactly why the schwa, in its full range, is the absolute linguistic backbone of English rhythm. It lets us speed up, slow down, emphasize, de-emphasize, all dynamically, without fundamentally losing the core vowel sound that holds it all together. Okay, this has been, well, an incredibly detailed deep dive. We've gone from the sort of philosophical identity of the schwa right down to the nitty-gritty anatomical requirements needed to produce it naturally. Let's try and summarize the absolute essential, actionable takeaways for someone listening and wanting to improve.
Okay, let's boil it down. Takeaway number 1. Remember that the American accent is less about learning individual sounds in isolation and much, much more about establishing the correct default physical posture.
The low and back tongue.
Yes. You absolutely must achieve that consistently low and back tongue position, the one that feels like it's sinking into the jaw. If you're constantly struggling with sound, the problem is almost certainly your physical default setting, not just your articulation of one sound.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2, you have to find, then feel, and then learn to activate that hinge contact, that light touch between the middle sides of your tongue and the inner surface of your fifth tooth back.
The specific non-negotiable point.
It really seems to be a non-negotiable physical requirement for stabilizing that crucial low back tongue posture for most American English sounds. Use the physical checks, the counting back we discussed, to locate it and get used to feeling it.
Got it. And number 3.
And number 3, understand the schwa as a full spectrum, a range of qualities. Stop thinking of the upside down E and the upside down V as totally separate sounds you have to learn.
They're two ends of the same thing.
Exactly. They represent the flexible, shared center of gravity for that neutral vowel quality,
Mm.
and you modulate between the quick and the clear simply by changing how much you open your jaw and how much stress, length, and volume you apply. The underlying tongue posture stays constant.
Okay, those are three huge points.
Hmm.
So how does a learner take this very specific, maybe even overwhelming knowledge and actually integrate it? It sounds like it requires shifting focus.
It absolutely does. You have to shift focus from just ear training, just listening and trying to copy towards building actual muscle memory for the posture.
How do you do that?
Well, the first step is probably pronunciation analysis, but focused on posture. Use this information to figure out where exactly is my non-native mouth posture interfering? Am I failing to get the tongue low enough? Am I missing that fifth tooth hinge contact? Is my throat tense and pinching? Is my tongue tip pushing too far forward?
Identify the specific physical flaw.
Yes, isolate the flaw in your posture. Then, once you have an idea of what's wrong, you have to move to practice, like shadowing. But shadowing with a posture focus.
Explain that.
It means listening to a native speaker source, maybe repeating immediately after them like in normal shadowing, but focusing less on perfectly mimicking the sound and more on consciously maintaining that low, relaxed center of gravity posture, especially when they use reductions like wanna and gonna or reduce function words.
So feel the posture while you repeat.
Feel the posture. You have to build the muscle memory for these new default settings. It takes conscious physical practice, not just auditory practice.
This whole analysis really focusing on minimal physical effort, maximal relaxation, maximum linguistic efficiency. It's been genuinely revealing about how the accent is built.
It really reframes pronunciation, doesn't it?
It does. And before we wrap up, I know you wanted to leave our listeners with one final, maybe slightly provocative thought that kind of grows out of this whole discussion about efficiency and relaxation.
Yeah, just something to mull over. We've spent this whole time establishing that the schwa is basically the most relaxed, most neutral, least defined sound in the language.
Right. The center of gravity.
And we've argued that the entire American accent seems fundamentally reliant on achieving and maintaining this very low, very back, maximized relaxation tongue position as its default setting.
Okay.
So if the language's structure itself pushes so heavily towards reducing articulation, towards defaulting to this maximally relaxed neutral core, does this suggest maybe a unique evolutionary path for American English? One that's centered almost entirely around, well, energy conservation in the act of speaking.
You mean, is the goal of fluency ultimately just a kind of biological mandate for minimal physical effort?
Could it be? Is the entire accent built on maximizing efficiency and minimizing the physical work needed to communicate? It's just something to maybe chew on as you start the physical work of adjusting your own vocal tract towards that low, relaxed center.
That is definitely something to consider. Food for thought indeed.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.